everybody. Welcome to another Quran study. Today we'll be reading from Surah 55, the Most Gracious, and we'll be starting at verse 65. Let's all seek refuge in God from Satan, the rejected. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. 65. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? In them wells to be pumped. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? In them are fruits, date palms, and pomegranate. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? In them are beautiful mates. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? So these are we're being told about the descriptions of paradise for the jinns. Well, we're told, in the previous verses, there's going to be two gardens, one for the jinns and one for the humans. And this is the reward for those who are fortunate enough to attain God's mercy on the day of judgment and be forgiven and make it to heaven. I mean, be it the higher heaven or the lower heaven. And so this 66 is referring to I believe the lower heaven, because there's going to be, in the higher heaven, the water is going to be free-flowing. And we can see there's all types of fruits, date palms and pomegranates, and of course, we're told this stuff, it's given to us in by the way of allegory, but I mean, even then, I'm sure if you love pomegranate, in this life, if you want it in the hereafter, I'm sure you can have it. And then, like in heaven, it'll be there for whoever wants it. And probably something much better as well on top of that. So, and looking at verse 70, there's beautiful mates. Confined in the tents. So, So I believe, you were going to have to, in the lower heaven, still it's the greatest triumph that any human can possibly fathom just to make it there. And you're going to have to go fetch your mate. This is as it was explained by the messenger of the covenant, and I think it might be talked about somewhere else in the Quran or in one of the appendices. But these are all marvels from God, and if we just think about the wonders of the hereafter, paradise specifically, you're not going to have to work in the sense, in this life. This life is also very good and wonderful after submitting to God and especially being in God's kingdom. Even it's so wonderful, like even when working and stuff, we can still have happiness when we totally submit to God. However, like in the hereafter, there's not going to be any type of work in that sense. Everything's going to be readily given to us, whatever we desire. And, in this life too, it also, in a way, like we understand from the Quran that, we have to, we're given a second chance, we're here, and we're given a second chance, and in the process, God has sent us here to be re-educated and to correct ourselves, to be purified, and to be appreciative, because for those who aren't appreciative in this life, even if they have a little bit, they're not going to be appreciative even if they have a lot, or even if they were just to be transferred to heaven. The unappreciative in this life would be unappreciative in heaven, figuratively speaking, in the sense in this regard, if I'm making sense here, it's being purified and working, growing our souls and stuff, and retraining ourselves, re-educating ourselves, learning to be appreciative and under all circumstances. Those types of people, God willing, if they make it, are going to be most appreciative for these blessings. But we can see, even if you take an unappreciative person and if you give them something, or even give them these rewards of heaven, at some point they're probably going to turn unappreciative. So we can almost sense, and it makes more sense, why these people wouldn't even deserve something like that if they don't reform, and why the disbeliever, is also referred to, I think, in one of the later surahs, maybe in the 70s. It's the two types of people: the disbeliever and the believer, the unappreciative and the appreciative. So these are, as we're being told in these verses, is really, really driving it home about these marvels, that no human can deny, and in the sense of its awesomeness, how God provides and creates all these things, creates happiness, is the author of love, and all these wonderful feelings that we can't even, in and of itself, that's just proof, that we have a Lord and we have a Creator. Because how can people explain happiness or love? So love you could even feel for a pet or something. So this is, these good things are from God, and for people to the disbeliever to turn unappreciative or try to deny these things is very unwise, and it would be in their best interest to stop, look around, and ponder on these things, because God is specifically talking about them, and we can see the title of this surah is Most Gracious. So, it's just like in the same way, if someone is giving you something really nice or a nice gift, how are you going to react to that? So those are, those are things we can ask ourselves. No human ever touched them, nor a jinn. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? They relax on green carpets and beautiful surroundings. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Most exalted is the name of your Lord, possessor of majesty and honor. So, verse 74, so in the sense of like having, I guess, like I see this, like having pure spouses, in the sense of, not being touched or something. Like, I've wondered about this before, but I think, it's pretty self-explanatory in the sense of, like how God tells us, your spouses will be perfectly matched. And in the sense of, God matching everybody with, the people, the inheritors of paradise, they'll be perfectly matched. And, you're not going to have to worry about being mismatched or any of that. So, we can see, the allegories of, just thinking of beautiful surroundings in this life, like the ocean, or a beach, and nice trees and fruits and stuff. These are, people will do so much in this world just to get like a 5-month vacation going to the Caribbeans or Hawaii or something. Or if you tell them you do this and this, you can have this, and then, stay in the nicest hotels or even a private mansion and stuff. People would readily jump on that. But even that's all temporary. So the real thing to strive for in this world is the hereafter. And it's a blessing from God to have belief and certainty about this, as submitters. And it's not to say that our certainty can't increase, because especially when we look more into this miracle, like we know from the example of Abraham, reassurance is good, because reassurance means you believe, but you want, you can have more belief on top of that. Hence, you're reassuring yourself you believe, and, so like the Quran's miracle, gives us reassurance every time we read it or we learn something new, or even if we go back and look at something that we might have looked at previously, and we can appreciate it more in a different sense or in the same way. And it's something that is really amazing in the sense it's not from a human, so it can only be from God. And then plus this Quran preaches the most sensible message of worshiping God alone. And so a true messenger that they're going to preach like the most perfect, purified, beautiful message. And that's another way to distinguish and know that we have the truth in this Quran and what God is telling us. So moving on to the next surah, Surah 56, the inevitable. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. When the inevitable comes to pass, nothing can stop it from happening. It will lower some and raise others. So this is talking about, the day of judgment. The day of judgment is inevitable. Being resurrected is inevitable. And, even just thinking about it right now, God constantly, there's different names, all meaning the same thing: the day of summoning, the day of mutual blaming, the day of judgment, the day of reckoning. I think even one is the day of requital, the inevitable day. So these are truthful and accurate names that are describing what's coming. And we can see what does inevitable mean. Nothing can stop it from happening. So, despite what people may gather or garner in this world, like in the sense of, wealth or, these underground bunkers, even with the highest technology, or even if they think they can make it in outer space or go inhabit another planet, which is, it's still a fail. They've been trying, when I say they, I'm referring to, these really wealthy people that are looking for other planets and stuff. But, even at the closest inhabitable planet, they still haven't found one. But even at the closest one that the amount of resources and technology you would need, and even if you had that, it would still be miserable. It wouldn't be beautiful. It wouldn't have. It would be very hazardous. You would have to wear these suits. So, there's no escape. And as we're told from the Quran, in other parts, there's there's not going to be any nepotism on that day. There's not going to be any intercession. And I read a verse this morning from Surah 2 that exposes, how exposes the fallacy of idolatry in the sense of intercession. There's not going to be Muhammad or Jesus. It says there's no intercession on that day. It's as clear as and plain as day in the Quran. And so, it's especially bad for, as we're told by the Messenger of the Covenant, it's especially bad when people set up idols, when they have something as powerful as the Quran that constantly says God alone, there's no intercession, and they still, disbelieve. And so, we can see that the earth will be shaken up, the mountains will be wiped out, as if they never existed. So these are things that everybody is going to be able to witness in the sense of, this is going to be when God comes back to the earth, so this is going to happen. Now, as far as the earth being shaken up and the mountains wiped out, the people that are going to live, or be in a generation that exist towards the end of the world, up until 2280. They're going to witness this. Now, as far as the people that are going to be restored and resurrected, that have already passed, and we'll be among those people, because we're not going to live maybe our gens will probably see it, but we're not going to make it that long. So, and it will lower some and raise others. So in the sense of, the people who didn't develop their souls, they're going to be the lowly on that day, and the people who did develop their souls, and the key here is to not nullify their works. So it's kind of like if you do so much for your soul, and then you go and commit idolatry, or you would really attribute any power to anything or anyone. If you think that anything or anyone has, the ability to help or harm you, then that's giving some type of power to a helpless entity, and not giving it where it's due, or recognizing God's traits, that God is in full control of all matters in the heavens and the earth. And so this has to, at some point it has to become part of us if we want to make it. God is running everything, and we have to keep telling ourselves, it's one of the zikrs, among all the other wonderful zikrs we can make, that makes God our God, right? And, so we're also going to be stratified into three kinds. So there's going to be those who deserve bliss, those who deserve misery, and then there will be the elite of the elite. So the ones who will make it to the low heaven, or even, the purgatory is eventually going to be merged with the low heaven. But essentially there's three kinds. The low heaven, the high heaven, we have paradise that encompasses, that, and then there's going to be those who have deserved misery will be in misery, which is hell, the intolerable inferno, which is also talked about in the sense like these small souls who will try to escape hell, and then they can't stand the presence of God, and so they have to run to hell. And it's I believe that's what the intolerable inferno is referring to in the other part of the Quran, where how the other verses talk about how they return to hell. Because they neglected their souls, they lost their souls, and so that's the worst loss, and it's eternal. Once, as God tells us, this is what makes this life so important. It's in the sense, like, I don't want to call it a paradox, but if you think about it, like, in the sense this life is temporary, it's an illusion, as we're told from the Quran, and for the disbelievers it's just plain vanity for the disbelievers, but for the submitters and believers it's extremely important, in the sense that it's our last chance to get it right, and not take these take our second chance, with great consideration and care, because there's gonna eventually come. I mean, we can all see we're all getting older by the second. Each day that passes is another day that passes, another day. Really, we're closer to the day of judgment. I mean, each minute too, if you want to think about it like a countdown. So, how much are we going to send forth for our souls? How much are we going to do in this life? And that's why it's also important to not, to be distracted, to be around the right people, fellow brothers and sisters, submitters, people who help you, remind you, and because that's the real family, and that's, we have to support each other in that sense, and remind each other, and because in a sense we're all in, every human is in this together, so we have to treat this very seriously. In the gardens of bliss, many from the first generations. So that one has a footnote. (13 to 40). Okay, so I'll go ahead and read. Since it says 13 to 40, God willing, I'll go ahead and once I'm through with 40. We can just read it now. That's fine. Okay, so this is for verses 13 to 40, which we're going to get to, however much we're going to get to. on the next page. People who believe and nourish their souls through worshiping God alone are destined for the high heaven. The contemporary followers of each messenger invariably suffer persecution from the traditionalist and adherents of the corrupted religion. Thus, they have a special place reserved for them in the high heaven. All people who die before the age of 40 go to the lower heaven, at least. That's in 46:15. So, this at least part, so if it's, people who, they're guaranteed to go to the lower heaven. Now, if somebody dies before the age of 40, I would see, like, if they were a submitter and somehow they passed or they got killed in the cause of God or something, and, they developed their souls a fair bit, a good bit, or a lot, they could possibly make it to the high heaven, So a few for the later generations on luxurious furnishings. So the first generations were like the people. It doesn't mean that, the people who were first on the earth. This is in reference to each messenger that comes. The generation that is with the messenger, or right around where the messenger is, before the, religion of submission is taken off. And in a sense, we're also, the religion of submission, and it's the same, submission was a coin term by Abraham, so submission was what Jesus taught, total submission to God alone. It's what, the subsequent prophets and messengers taught, along with the practices of their religion. And so, invariably, it's always been the case. I mean, we can see in the Bible how Jesus was persecuted, and really he was only left with like the 12 disciples and apostles. And Apostle Paul was not one of them, just putting that out there. It was Barnabas who was the 12th one. Paul was a fraud, and Peter and James and other apostles viciously went after Paul through the letters. So, just putting that out there for any people from a Christian background, that are listening, because that's if once that's clarified, and people, it's very important for people to see that, especially coming from Christianity or other religions, because once they see Paul and Paul's followers as the enemy, they'll be able to see through the fallacies in the Bible, and get this clear message, and we can, inevitably they'll be able to see the truth from the Quran. That would serve as a good starting point. Enjoying everything, they will be neighbors. Serving them will be immortal servants with cups, pitchers, and pure drinks. They never run out, nor do they get bored. Yeah, so there's no boredom too. I mean, imagine, never getting bored, right? And you're gonna have anything you want to drink, So this is the real stuff to work for, because we can see how most people, how they're living their lives. They're chasing after the material world, like, in the sense they're. If you even tell them, like, look, if you invest this amount of your time or this money, and this is the return you'll get. You tell them they can get some huge mansion with all these nice things for 100 years, and anybody would jump on it. But in a sense, like, we have to. But if so this is the best investment. This investment is the wisest investment. It blows any other investment out the water. And it's not to say that you can't have nice things. God will add all these things to us, like we're told. You seek first the kingdom of God, and then everything will be added to you. And so, and it's, he knows what he provides. He's the best provider, So, fruits of their choice, meats of birds that they desire, beautiful mates, like protected pearls, rewards for their works. So yeah, imagine living in, a place where you never have to, look over your shoulder, or you're having to, not that we do that as submitters in this world, but in the sense, like, we live in world that's far from perfect. I mean, obviously, because we're in Satan's domain, and there's all kind of corruption, crime, and weird, crazy stuff happening. I mean, there's not going to be any of that. We're not even gonna, alhamdulillah. I mean, for people who make it, aren't even going to hear about, people of paradise are not going to even have to experience that. So this is something, we have to really strive for. And it's on the contrary, it's like we also have to be aware and mindful of hell, that we have to remind ourselves that we're Satan's prime target, and also consider the possibility that if we don't make it, like, we're pretty much destined for the worst place in hell. I mean, even the least worst place in hell is so horrible. So in the sense, like, there's two wings in the same bird, like the reverence and fear, not taking God's retribution lightly, and then also having hope and working towards the hereafter to be close to God. So, because we're given the good examples too, how the prophets and messengers are worried about their own necks. Abraham even asked he said, include me with the righteous, and hopefully he'll be forgiven on the day of resurrection. So what does that say for us? Like, how careful we have to be, and not let up in a sense, or because that's, it's just like we're given examples in this life. I mean, in the sense, like, we know Satan's always after us. He's our most ardent enemy. So, like, in the times of war, I mean, every war, I mean, his book's been written on it. The enemy will get you as soon as you start to take it easy, or you let up. That's when they go for their attack or their opening. So it's the same kind of parallel or allegory we have in this life. We have to think about it like that, and that's why making God our God through zikr, through repentance, through all these good traits we can constantly work on, and asking God to help us to be better submitters every day. And He will, if we're really trying and sincere, He'll help us, He'll purify us. They never hear any nonsense therein, nor sinful utterances, only the utterance, peace, peace. God be glorified, so the dwellers of heaven aren't going to hear any nonsense, or sinful utterances, so they're not even going to hear a bad word or any negativity or any of that. It's just going to be peace. They're probably, like, it's not even, negativity isn't even going to be something, I hope I'm speaking right here, but, like, it's not even going to be something that exists, when you're close to God like that. It's just going to be, like the Quran says, it's just going to be bliss and happiness. So this is something we can look at and marvel at our Creator and the things that He's created, and something to strive for. The lower heaven, those of the right side will be on the right side, and lush orchards, fragrant fruits, extended shade, abundant water, many fruits, never ending, never forbidden, luxurious furnishings. So, fragrant fruits, I mean, just think about, like, the amount of, like, dopamine and stuff that's, like, delicious feeling you eat, when you eat, like, blueberries or pomegranates or kiwis or watermelon, and, it's going to be, and you're in a nice shade, abundant water. So, in a sense, like, these are things that we can, look forward to, and in a sense, too, like, we can, when we eat these nice things in this life, and we drink nice, clean water, or we're in the shade, we can thank God for these things. So, God is, because God is telling us, He's telling us about the hereafter right here. We create for them mates never previously touched, perfectly matched, for those on the right side. Many from the early generations, many from the later generations. So this is where that footnote ends that I was reading earlier. Yeah, so like as I was saying earlier, the mates will be perfectly matched. They're not going to be, they're going to be like perfect in a sense how they're going to be matched. And for those on the right side, so for those that are making into the lower heaven, these are, it's the greatest triumph too, and that's something we, even making it into the lower heaven. I mean, we can see the wise decision that all the creatures that vastly outnumber the humans too. Because I mean, if you think about how many trees there are and how many trees that live too, because it's not just how many trees are in existence, how many stars, right, and how many stars that are probably gone now that have imploded or supernova, etc. All the bugs and mosquitoes and creatures, the ants, the dogs, horses, all of them, that are in existence today and that have passed away since the beginning. They vastly outnumber the humans, so we can see that they're in a much safer position than us. But so they're automatically, along with the humans that make it to the lower heaven or that pass and die before the age of 40. So we can appreciate these descriptions, and it's something to look forward to and work towards. Hell, those on the left will be on the left in the misery and inferno. Even their shade is hot, never cool, never tolerable. So, those on the left, this is the third group of people. So, like as we read earlier, or it was somewhere, but the ones who make it to the high heaven, low heaven, and hell. Because even you might say, oh, what about the purgatory? Well, the purgatory eventually is merged with the lower heaven. So even their shade is hot. So even in the cool parts of hell, like shade is you can still have hot shade in this world, but shade generally is like escaping from blazing heat or in the sun. But even their shade in hell is hot, so it's not cool, it's never tolerable. And, just imagine something that's even hot weather in this world is still tolerable, but if we think about, putting your hand on a stove or something, that's never going to be tolerable, like, providing the stove is pretty hot, and it's never going to be tolerable ever, and it's going to be much worse than that. So God doesn't shy away about talking about this stuff, and He wants us to know, both everybody, and this book is for the whole world, this purified final testament, so this is good to talk about in the sense of having more reverence and being more conscious and aware of the hereafter, and the different destinies that we could even end up at, They used to be rich. They insisted on the great blasphemy. And the great blasphemy is, we're about to read it. They said, after we die and turn to dust and bones, we get resurrected. Does this include our forefathers? So they're, the arrogance, this is the great blasphemy in the sense of like disbelieving in the hereafter, disbelieving that God can resurrect the dead, and they're so limited or blinded by their disbelief and their ignorance that they fail to see how trees and leaves and these dead lands get resurrected, like nothing, in the sense that they don't realize that it's they're these flesh and these bones and these stuff that have maybe dissolved in the ground, It's not. It's God decides when that resurrection comes. You know, it's not like they. You see, they're challenge. You know, these people are blaspheming by challenging God, challenging what the messengers is bringing. Because there's going to be an appointed day where everyone gets resurrected. You know, so just because they haven't seen their forefathers or their previous ancestors that come out the ground, I mean, that's like putting a demand and saying, oh, well, why don't you resurrect him now? I mean, that's directly challenging God, and it's just due to ego, really. If you think about it, it's due to ego and arrogance. Because I mean, there's nothing. I mean, we can see that it's what caused Satan. It's what's caused Satan's demise, and it's also what caused us to be sent here. So when a warner comes, especially from people who may not even be prominent or wealthy, and is warning, it's a test for the people as well, just to expose these people, or the people that have killed their egos, or will eventually come around to killing their egos completely. Will take heed, and kill means kill too. Like we're told, dead means dead. So kill, like ego has to completely go. Like as far as God is concerned, say the early generations and the later generations will be summoned to a meeting on a predetermined day. Then you, O disbelieving strayers, will eat from the trees of bitterness, filling your bellies therefrom, then drinking on top of it hellish drinks, then adding drinks of sand. So, these are harsh, but it's a reality, though, in the sense of it's what's gonna happen, and it's gonna be much worse than this too. So in the sense where if you were to visualize somebody going through this, or think about what it would be like to experience this, I mean, it should invoke a sense of reverence and mindfulness about everybody's possible destiny. It's not, no one's guaranteed heaven, in the sense, where there's a lot of wishful thinking out there, or lackadaisical attitude or apathetic attitude about the hereafter, or we can see how many people have gone astray in various religions. And I mean, even in submission, it could happen to people if they're not careful, in the sense of not, thinking that there aren't admission tests, or just thinking that you can get by with your prayers or giving charity. But we can see that there's much more to that in the Quran, and there's much more, like we're told in Surah 29, if you say you're going to believe, and you think you can just do the contact prayers and give to charity, well, there could be some very serious tests and purifying that may, that would inevitably come to everybody, and that's something you have to be ready for, and then you have to also be willing to strive in the cause of God and constantly self-evaluate, because this is the stuff, and I mean, it's sometimes it may not be easy to do, but that's what makes it, all the worthwhile, and that's, I mean, actually, that's how it is, because we can see how people have deviated so far to the point of, I mean, there's some people that claim to believe in God and claim to believe in heaven that don't even think hell exists, I mean, that's in Christianity. They'll like spin a few verses out of context, and then, I mean, there's even people who blaspheme and, say horrible things about the prophet and, other things. But, I mean, this is a reality, so this is what makes the Quran, it's from God, because you don't see stuff like this in any other book. I mean, even the previous scriptures, although parts of it were from God, and I mean, even then, what you're reading for a fact is not the original text. Even if you go back to, or what you think is the original text, those have been lost pretty much, and so we just have translation upon translation, and it's like You know, I mean, it refers to, I think, hell is Tartarus and a few other outer darkness and stuff. But in a sense, like where the Quran is so powerful, and we know it's from God, is because, you know, God is warning us about these things. You know, it's like every messenger wasn't just a bearer of good news, but they were also a warner. You know, as we're told, the bringer of good news and also a warner. So this is the things that we should we have to remember and think about. And it's good that we're reading this stuff and then you know, reflecting on it too. You know. So such is their share on the day of judgment. Reflections. We have created you if you could only believe. You know, so I mean this verse is so powerful, you know, like if only people could actually believe. And you know, even us as submitters, we can evaluate ourselves and look at these verses. Like, have you noted the semen that you produced? Did you create it or did we? You know, we have predetermined death for you. Nothing can stop us. So this is something also it's good to be mindful about in a good way. That look, death has to come to everybody, and it's simply it's simply a transition. And in a sense, like where, you know, for the righteous and people fortunate enough to make it and go to heaven, they're just going to experience the first death. We know the second death. And it's also talked about, this same talked about in the Bible. Jesus says, do not fear man who can kill you the first time or put you through the first death. He said, fear my Father who can put you through the second death. Or, you know, which is, you know, this is talking about, you know, you don't want to be put through the second death, you know, as we're also, you know, how the Quran tells us. Nothing can stop us from substituting new generations in your place and establishing what you do not know. You know about the first creation, do you not remember? So I think maybe we could talk about this, but I think this is referring to our initial creation, like in a sense of like when we're in the high society, about when we committed that blasphemy and there was a great feud. And of course for our test and intern being taken here, that memory and knowledge has been obscured, but we're all going to remember it on the day of judgment, or as soon as death comes to us. You know, we're going to be, everything's going to be shown to us, and we're going to remember, you know, the purpose of why we're coming, why we came here, you know, all of it. Have you noted the crops you reap? Did you grow them or did we? If we will, we can turn them into hay, then you will lament. Subhanallah, you know, so like, just, I mean, even when we eat it like a strawberry or something, I mean, what did we do to create that? You know, what did we do? We didn't, I mean, to put its color, and I mean, imagine the amount of work that even if a human could, you know, facilitate some type of, even if you had to create a wooden sculpture or something, that would take days, and you wouldn't be able to eat it. I mean, it would just be a strawberry sculpture. You'd have to paint it, and that's just one strawberry. I mean, it's not even a good comparison in the sense, but we can kind of fathom or appreciate God and look at all these things that are happening around us autonomously and automatically, all these systems, and ask ourselves, did we create them? No, of course we did. And did other humans do it? You know, did my boss do it? Did this CEO of this company do it? No, they're powerless. They can't do any of that. God is the one who provides for them. And I mean, if people are so powerful too, we have to remind ourselves, like even these people, I mean, we can see these really wealthy people that are get really sick or come down with these terrible diseases, and they have all this money, and I mean, you know, I mean, even they can't escape death, you know, even if they try to do these weird rituals and stuff, like you might hear about, you know, with these elites and stuff, you know, they fail, I mean, and stuff like that gets leaked out, and they're obviously going to be introduced into the hellfire, like providing these people were wicked. So this is this is these are things we can think about. Just looking, when we eat food, that just like magically appeared in our refrigerator. Yeah, we went to the store to buy it, but I mean, even when we're at the store, it's just like poof, it's there. It's like we didn't even have to bring it to the store. We didn't have to harvest it. I mean, God's made it so easy for us if you really think about it. Like especially for today, you know. Then you will lament, we lost, we are deprived. Have you noted the water you drink? Did you send it down from the clouds, or did we? If we will, we can make it salty. You should be thankful. Yes, I mean, imagine drinking salty water that's like bitter and that would dehydrate you and make you more thirsty. God could have easily created a system too, or He could have created a system where we could drink salty water and it wouldn't dehydrate us, but that's all we would have. And I mean, we'd be stuck with it. But even that would still be good. But He's subhanAllah, He's the most gracious, most merciful. He gives us, clean water without salt that we can drink, that doesn't make us thirsty and that quenches the thirst. And is, just imagine, when you're thirsty and when you take a sip of water, how delicious it tastes. So these are blessings from God. And, even every raindrop, that comes down from the skies in accordance with the will of God, like it's wherever that raindrop lands is specifically placed. We really have to look at things like that and work on ourselves in the sense of, realizing everything's being done by God, and to completely submit. And once we, keep telling ourselves more and believing that, and submitting, everything's going to become easier. And, we're not going to find anything objectionable because we know God is doing it. So who are we to object? I mean, who knows best other than our Creator, that created us when we were nothing, or we didn't even know ourselves or have existence or a mind. So, as we're told, He's the most wise. So whatever's happening in the world, whatever's happening to us, like the messenger said, just to close with this, the only thing we really have to do, he said this in, I think one of his final or most important sermons, is choose to be with God, and God will take care of the rest, he said, because the decision is really that simple. You can choose to be with God or choose to be with Satan. So we choose to be with God with open hearts, and He'll help us. He'll purify us, improve us, clean us, and as long as we do our part, and that's what it means. Choosing to be with God is doing our part, and imploring Him for help, and asking, repenting, all those, and totally submitting. So with that being said, if there's any comments or questions, please feel free. MashaAllah, God bless you.
SubhanAllah, thank you, brother.
Thank you. Good study, mashallah.
MashaAllah, God bless you.
So I just asked I just asked ChatGPT what would happen if someone drank a large amount of sand, and it talks about all the devastating effects that one would have if something like that happened. And it talks about like choking, erosion and tears in the intestine, blockage of the stomach, dehydration, and a lot of other toxic effects, infection, bacteria, parasites, microorganisms, poisoning from metals and stuff, and complete bowel obstruction, and basically it requires surgery, and could cause multi-organ failure and death. God says they will drink streaks of sand in hell.
Yeah, that's pretty cool how you asked it. Like, I didn't think, if you think about all that, all these effects, in this world, how painful and stuff it would be. Yeah, also thinking about the verse, how the earth will be shaken up in Surah 55, verse 4. It's really amazing in the sense of God's power, just to think, like, we know how scary and loud a nuclear bomb is, or even an earthquake. But if you zoom out and you're looking at the earth from outer space, and we see, like, let's say a magnitude 7 earthquake go off, you're not even going to be able to see it with your eye, like wherever it's located. But the whole earth will be shaken up. So, it's going to be, in a sense, like billions of earthquakes in a sense. Imagine how loud and, what it's going to, you can only imagine or try to think allegorically in the sense of what this day is going to be look like, and then how the mountains will be wiped out. Like, I've seen YouTube videos of avalanches and stuff. It's not even, or these rock slides, which you can hear from miles away, and like people are filming, and it's very intense and very scary. And that's not even, that's just like a small portion of the mountain. So this is going to be very, very intense. Yeah, Brother Abdullah said, the hell part starts with verse 41. Wow, subhanAllah. Remember, the age of responsibility begins after the age of 40. Yeah, I think that's, I'm glad you talked about that or pointed that out. Because that was, I think, yeah, that's like a proof, too. Because it was just talking about the lower heaven, too. And like people who die before the age of 40 make it. So that's definitely, I'm glad you pointed that out. What you put a, what does that mean?
No, that's just for hell, like
Oh,
scary.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah. I thought, I was like wondering.
well, I'm over 42. That's another reason.
No, man, yeah.
May God protect us.
Yeah, may God protect us. I'm fixing to turn 30. I'll be there soon, God willing. Yeah, in a couple days. But, yeah, mashallah. Like
Oh.
time goes. That's what I was when I was talking earlier about, like how
Hmm.
quick time happens. Like it's like when I was saying, like each minute is bringing us closer to the day of judgment or the end of the
Hmm.
world. If we think about it like that, it's like a countdown timer in a sense, or the inevitable day. But there's people like I read a good verse this morning from Surah 2. It says in their mind, it says something like subconsciously. It said use the words deep in their minds. They don't believe in the hour. Like
Hmm.
it was talking about like disbelievers and stuff, or it might have been talking about idolaters and stuff. And this is kind of what I've noticed, because their works don't conform with their belief, or they say they believe in the hereafter, but deep in their minds they don't. So if they're and we can see, like if they think Jesus is gonna, or people believe in Jesus is gonna rescue them, they don't. They're disbelievers. Despite what they might tell you or try to convince you that they believe. Or
Hmm.
same goes for Muhammad and stuff. There's not going to be intercession. Because even
Hmm.
for me, like when I was, uh, grew up in Christianity, I didn't, like comparing myself to now, like I didn't, you kind of told, like, okay, like maybe it's real, or you just kind of go along. And I mean, having been through that, I know that's what most people I mean, like the Quran says, it's what they're experiencing, what they're like, you know, despite what they
Hmm.
tell you. But, yeah.
Yeah, so your birthday is on Christmas Eve, right?
Yeah, it's on Christmas Eve. Yeah, people always ask me, like, I got a coupon the other day at the health food store, and they were like bringing up Christmas and stuff for
and
my
stuff.
birthday, and then I had to like try to divert the conversation because they were asking about presents and stuff.
Sorry, what happened? I missed that.
Oh well, no, like I was getting a coupon the other day at a health food store, and they give it to you the month of your birthday, and then the lady had to enter it in, and then she started to be like, "Oh, you get double presents on Christmas and your birthday, huh?" And I like tried to like divert the conversation because she started bringing up Christmas,
Uh,
and then people are telling you, like I was talking with Brother Raphael, people are telling you Merry Christmas and stuff, and usually I'll
uh-huh.
just ignore them or I'll smile and like wave goodbye, and I mean I don't care like what they think. I'm not gonna risk, like. But anyway, but yesterday I thought they were gonna say bye, and I was saying bye back, and then almost said it like Merry Christmas, and I had to repent. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's like Satan's a crime baby. We were talking about that.
yeah. I mean, you could tell them, hey, I don't celebrate Christmas, you know.
Yeah, I actually
Yeah.
had a dream about that. I think after the day after that happened, I dreamed, and then I was like telling somebody like it was bad, and I don't celebrate, and I don't care what you think or something.
Well, you
Just
can also tell them Jesus wasn't born in December.
yeah, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. Yeah, man. Like when I was like a teenager, my parents and stuff, like we found information. I mean, like he was, I think,
Hmm.
born in September or sometime in October.
Right.
It's funny. I know this person that used to believe that, and then like just to go along, get along with the Christmas folks. They now like are sharing things on social media about Jesus being born, and this
Hmm.
they shared something so blasphemous. But I mean, I've talked to this person before and given
Hmm.
them the message that but I don't talk to them anymore. But yeah, she said it was so cringy, dude. I just had to like unfollow it. But it says Christmas is such like a special day, we have to remember that this day represents, the cry of one baby that was heard around the world, and it was the voice of who,
Mhm.
like the voice of God or something, and it was so like terrible sounding, dude. I'm like, man, it's
Voice of God
yeah. They
crying.
said the voice of God was like crying on this night, and how sacred Christmas is. They were trying to make it all like,
Oh, you say when Jesus was crying?
yeah, exactly. When Jesus was crying, it was like when the voice that broke the silence across the world was the sacred voice of God or something. Like it was so bad, you know.
And they say these things, just like it doesn't mean anything to them. They just say it, but little do they know that all this is being recorded. And it might not be like something big to them, but it's very blasphemous, and all these things are being recorded. It's gonna be known to them. What they said.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, only if they knew the trade off, right? I mean, for what temporary joy they think they're getting out of this. I mean, how horrible it is.
Right. Yeah, like because like you look around, you see all the fancy lights. Like you had told me, I think we were in Marina Del Rey or something, and you can see these really decorated boats or
Right.
the area we're in, and it was very like, ooh, it was. But like you
Hmm.
had said, like he said something that stuck with me. It was like made me think more about it, and it makes so much sense. Like how Satan adorns with these really pretty lights and stuff, and ooh,
Yeah.
how he oozed or awes the people, captivates them, and it's not worth it, Like all this
Yeah.
cheerful music and ooh, everything lovey dovey
Yeah.
the season, and it's
Yeah.
all
I have seen so many people who are who are not actually submitters. Like I consider them hypocrites, but they have been so taken uh, uh I mean, what's the expression, right? They're so in love with these lights. They're looking forward to it during the Christmas time, and they, like, one person who's not here, he used to like take his children to go and see these lights specifically. I'm
yeah, that's
like, and
bad. That's any hint
well,
of idol worship they should run from. And I mean, this isn't even like a hint. This is obvious. Like
mm-mm,
it's pagan.
yeah,
It's pagan celebration.
mm-hmm,
I mean, even Christmas itself, how it was established with Constantine. The pagans. He had to appease the pagans. They were still like a really powerful
yeah,
population, and so he merged. And I mean, if you show them the proof, like Christians, like they like you said, they want to compromise, and it's not worth it. It's like temporary enjoyment and satisfaction. If they were really sold on God, they would like not want
yeah.
anything to do with that.
Exactly. I mean, how the messenger also said, that a believer, true believer, will run away from a tiny hint of idol worship. I mean, not to say that it makes it a sin or it's prohibited in that sense, but the thing is that if you realize that, what this symbolizes, I mean, this is something, this idol worship that they're celebrating, the birth of something that they idolize. They're idolizing him. That's why they're doing this celebration. So you wouldn't want to be associated with that or want to go look at it. No matter how beautiful it may seem like, it's just something that is going to leave a bad taste in your mouth every time you look at it because of what it represents. So for people who find it attractive, like thinking, oh yeah, well, nothing wrong with the lights and whatever, they don't. They just, I think they miss the point. Basically. Um,
Yeah, they
uh,
do.
yeah, and you have, like, I'm here, in Morocco, and like there's people. Even when I was in Qatar last time, last year around this time, these are all Muslim countries. Like there's no Christians at all, pretty much. Even Qatar, let's say there were, like, say, worker class from Philippines and stuff, even, but here there's no Christians and just tourists. But still, they want to celebrate Christmas. Muslims wanting to celebrate Christmas, decorating, having Santa Claus, Just absolutely ridiculous.
They could have a Santa Claus with a turban or something.
Yeah, today I opened my TikTok and
Yeah.
I saw a video of like animated Santa Claus, doing Arabic dancing and
Really? Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no excuse because even if you go to these parks and stuff, I mean, what it symbolizes, and inevitably they're going to run into some type of Christmas tree. They're going to run into Santa Claus. They're going to run into a picture of Mary and
Mhm.
Jesus, and be like, oh, well, I'm just not going to look at that.
Yeah,
Well, why are you even going to a place that would
yeah,
signify and represent and promote this stuff? Like
yeah.
if you're really sold on God, you would happily give up, or not even
Yeah.
giving. It's not even really you're giving up doing this stuff or celebrating it, but it's
Hmm.
you wouldn't it's yeah it's a really bad trade off. It's not worth it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like they have they're not satisfied with the idol worship they're already doing. They want to embrace other idols
Yeah.
as well on top of it. Yeah.
It, so I had a question about. I think we read two times about the beautiful mates, like protected pearls, and now they were never touched by humans or jinns. What does that exactly mean? Or is it just meaning like in the sense how they're everybody's going to be purified in heaven, and like never previously touched, perfectly matched for those on the right side. That's the lower heaven verse, and then
So I think there's an appendix that talks about the paradise for the lower heaven versus the high heaven, how the two are different, you know. So I believe this is in maybe Appendix 7, if I'm not mistaken. No, it's not. Sorry, not Appendix 7. Sorry, that was suicide. This would be yeah. This was Appendix 11. So it talks about the high heaven and the low heaven. So it says, um, high heaven. It says no, not this one though. But there's one that it does talk about high heaven and low heaven, but it doesn't distinguish between the two types in detail. Mm, mm, mm. Oh yeah,
was it?
this is this one. Appendix 5. Sorry, it says the high heaven versus the lower heaven. It says there are profound differences between the high heaven and the lower heaven. Allegorically, water in the high heaven flows freely, and then said allegorically, water in the high heaven flows freely, while the water of the lower heaven needs to be pumped out. Allegorically, the high heaven has all kinds of fruits, while the lower heaven has a limited variety of fruits. Allegorically, the pure spouses readily join their spouses in the high heaven, while the dwellers of the lower heaven must go fetch their spouses. Yet even the lower heaven is an incredibly fantastic prize for those who are fortunate enough to escape hell and end up in the lower heaven. Going to lower heaven is a triumph. People who departed this life before their 40th birthday and did not sufficiently develop their souls will go to the lower heaven. The high heaven is reserved for those who believed, led a righteous life, and developed their souls sufficiently. So, when it says, to answer your question, brother, when it talks about their spouses will not be touched by any jinns or humans, means like they will not be, someone else's or have had any, any kind of interaction,
Mm-hmm.
or relationship with others, right? So,
Yeah, that's kind of
yeah.
what I was thinking
Mhm.
too.
So, like, I mean, that could be even. I mean, how I see it, it could be your spouse in this world also,
Mm-hmm.
but in the hereafter, she will not be touched by, any other human origin.
Mm-hmm.
You and obviously we'll all be pure. We'll have a different kind of existence, not the same bodies
Yeah,
that
so
we have here too.
kind of like you throw off, like kind of like we shed this body, like
Exactly.
we
Yeah.
give somebody our shirt, like we don't care
Hmm.
about that shirt. Like I think the messenger kind of given a
Yeah.
cool,
Hmm.
cool, funny
Yeah.
example,
Yeah. And how God talks about, how the butterflies versus like the moths, how we, will be all airborne, so we shed this body,
hmm
for sure.
Yeah, and that's why the earthquake, when the earth quakes, that stuff won't affect us because we're airborne. Like
Hmm.
with everything happening beneath us.
Yeah. All the mountains will be wiped out,
Um,
for example. Yes. Yeah.
Subhanallah, brother. And like you explained, we can't imagine, how um, for the people that make it, we can't imagine how beautiful this is gonna be, and these are all allegorical. So, you know, God is just explaining to us like the best way we can get it, but we know that it's gonna be way beautiful and awesome, like we can't imagine it, how good it's gonna be
Hmm.
for those who make it.
Yeah. Subhanallah.
yeah, it's like verse 17 of Surah 32. It says, "Heaven indescribably beautiful. You have no idea how much joy and happiness are waiting for you as a reward for your righteous works." So even if somebody tried to have an idea, like even
Hmm.
if they tried their best to imagine or have an idea, the Quran, we're being told you have no idea.
Hmm.
No matter how
Yeah.
hard you may try.
Exactly. Yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
and like the message of the government gave a good example though. It's like, I mean, I was kind of surprised actually, but his example was that how would you describe orgasm to a little child? You know,
Hmm.
imagine because he can't experience anything like that, right?
Right.
So even if you give him the most descriptive example, he has no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Uh,
like you could
one
tell
because
him it's like eating a bunch of ice cream or chocolate, but that's not really. It's
hmm
we know
yeah,
that's
yeah,
it's the
it's
best.
not
Like
even close. Yeah.
yeah, it was a good example from the messenger.
Or the taste of chocolate is another one, of obviously.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, imagine like if you tried to tell somebody what chocolate tasted like they would never be able to. I mean, you could
Hmm.
just utter words and be like, "Oh, it
Hmm.
tastes like this," but
It
it's like,
doesn't taste like anything.
yeah, like how could you even take? How could you even tell me? Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's something. It's really something like I've thought about like a few times at different points. I'm like, man, out of kind of like I mentioned earlier, out of all the creatures, I was thinking about like out of all the trees and the stars. I mean, how many billions of stars there are, and the trees and the mosquitoes and the horses and dogs. Like, how do we? I mean, we know how, but like how do we end up in like this position to
Mhm.
want to take the test, like really we're a really really small portion of all the creatures, 'Cause, I mean, think about all the mosquitoes that live too since the beginning of time. I mean, that's just what about the flies? I mean, they vastly outnumber us like so significantly. Plus, you have to add the stars and the lizards and the frogs. I mean, it's
When you say how we ended up, you mean like in a way that we must be very arrogant?
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, or like in a sense, like yeah, because I mean, I know like we had, I guess so. Like in the first life, because we though all those number of creatures were with us too, and then but we wanted to go through the test,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
like I mean,
it's
because
mostly.
I've thought before, I'm like, man, how come we didn't like look at their decision, and be like, okay, like these decillion amount of creatures are repenting their second time. Maybe they know something I don't. Maybe I should do what they're doing because
Mhm.
they're obviously fear
Mhm.
something. Like how
Yeah.
come? I guess yeah, it was our ego. Like there's no room for any
Mhm.
ego.
Yeah,
Mhm.
brother. So I was gonna say the
Yeah,
ego.
yeah, yeah. And also the messenger talks about the incentive. I mean, obviously the ego is there, right? Which led us to take that risk because we thought that it
Hmm
would. Our ego made us believe that yeah, I'm good enough. Like, of course
We
I'll
thought
pass.
that because we probably thought the test. Yeah, like he said, we thought the test would be easy
Easy for us.
for
Like,
us. But like we must
yeah.
have thought we were better than those horses or before they became horses because it's like how come we didn't see like well they don't think this test is gonna be easy man
Hmm.
maybe they're right
Hmm.
yeah we must have had like really big ego
Yeah.
really profound
Yeah, I mean,
egos.
like God says in the Quran that we were ignorant, right? Which is part of ignorance is a part of ego,
Hmm
right? So we were ignorant enough to think that we will easily pass it. Like
Wow
obviously, it
yeah
was something that we did not see how difficult it would be. Like we did
hmm
not think it through.
yeah
Uh, then there was also the incentive to go to high heaven.
right yeah because yeah messenger talked about that.
Yeah, because obviously the that's what everybody would go for because otherwise low heaven is already
Right guaranteed
being offered, right?
yeah.
So the only gamble here for the
That's
people
probably
was
why gambling's prohibited in the sense like why
yeah,
gambling's bad because it's almost kind of like what we did.
yeah,
In a way, like we're
mhm,
gambling with our eternal. Like, oh, well, maybe I could. Yeah,
mhm. Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course. But yeah, we can't do anything about it now.
yeah. May God help us, please. You know, yeah, yeah. Like we're told in the Quran, is greater, is that, or it says the differences in the hereafter are far greater than like the differences in this world, or something like that.
Right. Yeah. The ranks are going to be
Right?
much more significant. Like you see people complaining about the difference between the rich and the poor. In this world,
Mm-hmm.
there's people starving and there's people with billions of dollars.
Billions, yeah, spaceships and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Rocket.
in the hereafter, obviously, when you see someone in the high heaven, I mean, you can forget about the wealth in this world. Obviously, like I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, you can't do much with all the wealth in the world. You can't
Mm-hmm.
do much with all the wealth in the world in this world. But in the hereafter, I mean, that's the eternal life, and people will have, mansions and upon mansions, as God says, with flowing streams, and width of paradise whose width encompasses the heavens and the earth. And then you have the disbelievers who will have nothing, just misery, more miserable than the most poorest people we know on earth, who are more miserable than anybody in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and then we all have different ranks too.
Like within the high heaven or low heaven and hell. I mean, there's
Yeah.
ranks like even in hell. Like I mean,
Hmm.
that's like people.
Yeah. The
Like even I
hypocrites
mean,
were the lowest, but
yeah, yeah. Like like even like these hell testimonies I watched probably about 70 to 80 of them, because just based on how many I have in my playlist a few years ago, in the sense of just like looking at what these people are saying. But it was more proof that not that I needed to watch that to have any, but it further.
You watch 70 or 80 of them?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, like, it was for a reason, but like, pretty much watched all the ones on YouTube that they had, and by the time I was done, they all said the same thing, like whether they were a Christian, Muslim, Jew, Buddhist, or a complete atheist, they were in there for what they had done in this world. Like, it had nothing to do with disbelieving in Jesus. It had nothing to do, like, it was a lot of Christians that were like shocked. They were like, "Oh my gosh, I was calling out and it wasn't coming." And then I remember all of them said the same message. It was literally what the Quran is teaching us. They were in there for their works, and like failing to and it was just more proof that but it's and they're saying this, and I'm thinking like, okay, maybe they're gonna like be a Christian submitter and quit worshiping, because they're gonna see that these people aren't helping them. And then they suddenly start interjecting, and I'm like, wow, did you not learn your lesson or something? But,
Yeah, they didn't actually go to hell, obviously.
no, yeah. And I want to say this, like I was taking this with a grain of salt, but because it could have been, because hell's not in existence too, but yeah, it was just.
I guess instinctively, maybe they know that the difference, like
Also, they could have made it up too.
Yes, and some people, right, have written books on it just to gain popularity and stuff, and then they promote like Jesus is the only way, but then they contradict themselves because they'll say, "Oh, if you lie, cheat, steal." Like there was, and the point of me saying this was that the different ranks in both heaven and hell, like for the cheaters and for the liars and stuff, they had like different punishments, and they talked about like these iron pots, just like the Quran was talking about, and these pits. I mean, it was really graphic and really horrible, some of the stuff I was reading, but I'm like, so the point of me bringing that up was just to, I guess, piggyback on like the different ranks, because, but I mean, it's such a horrible place. I mean, we're given these descriptions in the Quran. God doesn't, like God says, He doesn't shy away from the truth. So, this is for people, to really take heed, and people to have reverence, and for people to have hope too.
Yeah.
And Abdullah said also to take a look at Satan's claim. Yeah, because, I've also thought about, like, that part, like how Satan has to have constituents, in order to test his claim. So, I guess we were the volunteers. Foolishly.
Yeah, it says we wanted to see it for ourselves.
Yeah, it's funny. I was doing a little bit of Audio 48 last night in the beginning, like right at the beginning. The messenger was saying about people who got swept in the crowd, and he said how the humans didn't make a firm side with God or Satan, but we said to ourselves, maybe there's something we don't know. Like let's see this demonstration. Like they said, maybe.
Yeah, just curiosity killed the cat.
Yeah. Yeah, curiosity, right? That's so true.
That was more like obviously ignorance, right? So.
Yeah, ignorance to God's absolute authority.
Yeah, I wish always I was like a fruit fly or a mosquito or something like that. You could have a very easy exit.
Just for a couple weeks too. I think flies only live for a few weeks too.
Yeah. They just hatch and get out of their sheds and mate and die. So all these little things.
Mashallah, Brother Suleiman. You said that in one of your studies too. I remember.
Yeah.
This It's true though.
Yeah.
Yeah, subhanallah.
I mean, for those creatures, they had it very easy in the sense that, I mean, like for example, you have trees and planets that live for,
Yeah,
you
like
know,
right. Some of these stars might be around for
yeah,
hundreds
Earth,
of millions of years. Like,
yeah,
imagine what they're experiencing. I'm sure they're just sitting there or something, or they're just glowing.
yeah,
And, you know,
yeah. Like the Earth is a submitter, so the Earth lives
yeah,
from start to finish.
yeah, yeah. Subhanallah. Like God assigned all these different creatures. Like one was meant to be the Earth, the Moon, our Sun. You know,
Mhm.
our specific submitting star, and you know,
Subhanallah. Also God says, that He removes all jealousy in heaven. For the people that make it in heaven, like there won't be no jealousy there. And you know how these verses, allegorical descriptions of the low heaven and the high heaven, how they're together. It kind of reminds me of that. You know,
Mhm.
like they're just um, both so awesome.
Mhm.
yeah, mashallah. Yeah, it's like kind of like the messenger said. You know, people work. Most people go to school and stuff and work real hard to get a good job and have these fancy drapes or have a house in the foothills. They work really hard for that, like super hard, going to school. But what are they doing? You know, for the real body.
Yeah, like I'm going to school, so I can have a fancy house on a foothill.
Yeah, God willing. You know,
Subhanallah.
yeah, God willing.
I literally.
Yeah,
Just kidding. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but
inshallah.
that's what everybody is doing exactly, right? I mean, people work so hard, just so they can enjoy these, you know, couple of decades that just passed like
Hmm.
months.
Right, just a couple decades. You know,
Yeah.
it's just plain vanity. You know, for
Yeah.
these people.
Yeah.
And then you know what's crazy? Like there's some people that even know, like I'm mainly talking about like agnostics, atheists, or like uh, devil
Hmm.
worshiping people. Like they, literally believe, like they'll believe they're going to hell and they may suffer, but they don't care. They're like, oh, let me just enjoy now. Like, like in the occult and stuff I've read. And I'm like, man, how could you even think like that? Like,
Hmm.
and it's just I guess it doesn't register with them because if they're feeling fine today, they just don't care, and
Hmm.
I guess these people are just blocked.
Hmm.
But uh,
Yeah.
I guess that's what
Must.
makes the human being so bad, like for even to think like that.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah. So, Brother Jaffer, I see he's in the study too, and I'm not sure, Brother Jaffer, if you can talk or not. But he sent me a message recently from one of the circumcisionists.
No,
How
Alhamdulillah.
are you, brother? Good.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Listening.
Yeah, mashallah. No, I was
Inshallah.
just thinking, I was just going to mention, that message that we recently got from this one circumcisionist who said a bunch of nonsense and how shows how they're stuck in their disbelief, right? I mean, after so many years of reading Quran, and here they are like making videos on uh, TikTok and all this stuff, and like having these Quran studies with like bunch of people, claiming to be knowledgeable in religion, right? And they're saying things that just show that they have absolutely no access to the Quran. Um, Talking about claims from the messenger and how saying, for example, that it's not in the Quran, like messenger didn't say anything to say the other, to not say that it's wrong, but to say it's right, and just totally going against the basics that we know from the Quran, like shows how God blocks people who try to hold on to other sources besides Quran. I mean, even though they claim to uphold the Quran alone, being hypocrites, they don't uphold the Quran alone because literally they go against it. And I mean, even AI is enough to respond to those claims. Like they wrote that message with all that nonsense, and I just wrote into one of them, like, just create a response based on the points from the Quran that I had already made the points before, and I gave it the points, and it just created, mashallah, just to save time, because there's really no point in wasting time debating with these people who have really no arm and leg to stand on. And mashallah, 5 minutes, it refuted all their claims. We had enough material written on it before. I threw all of it at it, mashallah. But that's what we'll do next time too. If they send anything, we'll just ask ChatGPT to write a response.
I mean, look, I want to play this too. Yeah, I want to play this too, real quick, God willing. I mean, this is directly from the Essentials of Submission.
Find that scripture. It is God will find everything. After him came messengers like Noah, Jesus, Moses, Muhammad. Muhammad was the last prophet bringing the last scripture, the Quran. And in the Quran we'll find everything we need. All the duties, obligations, commandments, prohibitions in Islam. Quran is the final scripture. It is the completion of the message. Because the Islam, if you go to any other source, Islam, the Quran is all you need. In fact, because God said that the Quran is complete, perfect, and fully detailed. If you go to any other source, you will be disobeying God and disobeying the messenger of God, Muhammad, who brought this Quran out of his mouth. God brought to us the Quran out of Muhammad's mouth. And you will be disobeying God and disobeying Muhammad if you follow any other sources besides the Quran. And specifically, I mean sources like Hadith, Sunnah, and all the other books and things that the traditions and the customs invented.
Previous books.
If you go to any source besides the Quran, you will be disobeying God.
I mean, it's so simple.
Because clearly God says in Surah number 6, verse 114, for example, that the Quran is fully detailed. You don't need anything else. God says in verse 19 of Surah number 6 that the Quran is what was given to Muhammad to deliver to the world, and it is the only source for religious guidance and religious education.
SubhanAllah, it's just so simple, and it's really mind-blowing how these people could completely, it's like telling, it's like just as obvious, I guess, now, like, I mean, like you tell people, look, there's 5 prayers, and they say, no, there's 3 prayers, like.
Yeah, I was recently, when we had this discussion about some math calculations about the previous scripture, I was looking to find that post that this guy did, and so I went to see some other posts in the past, so just brought back old memories of 2018, 2019, when we had this long discussion with a lot of these people, and so many people, got so many likes from like-minded people who were saying that, no, it's not so straightforward, it's not so easy, and don't be so overzealous to say that it's right or it's wrong. Like, those circumcisions were saying it's right, and we were saying, obviously, it's wrong. And they say, no, it's not that easy, And then there's a bunch of other people that were on the sidelines that did not
Yeah, they want to complicate the religion. Just like
complicate the religion, And so, but we see that it's the most easiest thing for you to understand God. Made the religion so easy, And God had literally made it easy by just sending you a book and say, just follow this, nothing else. Just, you don't have to worry about anything else in any other places. And here you have these people, stuck on something so ridiculous and so obvious. Obviously, it's all because they deserve to be misled based on their own doubts about God and about the hereafter, right? Which is causing them to be attracted to these things and just not being able to stand with God alone. And Quran literally, where the message, and one thing we do see that, like, for example, when the messengers in the past came to people to talk about worshiping God alone, one of their arguments was to say that they blamed God for it. They said, if had God wanted, we would not have practiced this thing. And we never heard of this for our ancestors, and they followed their parents blindly. And that's exactly the same thing you hear from these people, no matter which category they say they belong to. They'll say that, oh, it's been practiced from generations and this and that, So when they say that, obviously that part goes back to their forefathers, even though their forefathers were not guided, but they use it to convolute the religion. And they blame God for it. Like, had God wanted, like the messenger would have said something, for example, right? So that's blaming God for it, to say that had God wanted, we would not be idol worshippers, right? That's literally what disbelievers say in the Quran. And this is what these people say, They say, yeah, if God wanted, like, the messenger would have said something, the messenger would have said this.
It's a test for these people because, like, they're exposed. They have to be exposed this way, because, it's just like you said, they're literally, like, living out that verse of the Quran. And, I mean, we see in Surah 6, too, that, one of my favorite verses, because, like, a favorite in the sense where it gives you a lot of understanding about why these pastors, preachers, imams rise up and lead so many people astray. But it goes, I think it's something like, we have permitted the enemies of every prophet, human and jinn devils, to inspire fancy words in the people. Had we willed, we could have not allowed this, but we thus are going to expose, or we thus we let their hearts and ears listen to these fancy words and these messages, and they thus expose themselves when they readily accept it. Thus exposing that they're allowed to, these messages and these things are allowed to be promoted to expose these hypocrites and these idol worshippers. Because for somebody to want to complicate the religion and say it's not, that's literally like all the fake Muslims and stuff have done. They're like, it's what they've done with hadith and sunnahs. They're just idol worshippers at heart. They really have to be. They're not any different than traditional idol worshippers in the sense that they're literally the same people that aren't satisfied with the Quran alone. Instead of picking hadith and sunnah, they pick the previous scripture. It's in the hadith and sunnah too.
Yeah.
Circumcision and
what about the
Bible? But we were just told, the messengers just said, inherited traditions and customs from the previous books. You don't follow any of that. So these people these people have to be disbelievers in the messenger too, and we can see why.
Exactly. It's in Surah 24, verse 47. It says, God sends instructions through his messenger. They say we believe in God and in the messenger and we obey, but then some of them slide back afterwards. These are not believers. When they're invited to God and his messenger to judge among them, some of them get upset. However, if the judgment is in their favor, they readily accept it. Is there a disease in their hearts? Are they doubtful? Are they afraid that God and his messenger may treat them unfairly? In fact, it is they who are unjust. And then it says, believers unhesitatingly obey God and his messenger. The only utterance of the believers whenever invited to God and his messenger to judge in their affairs is to say, we hear and we obey. These are the winners. And God said, these are the triumphant ones. And so then it says later on, if they obey God and his messengers, if they refuse, then he is responsible for his obligations and you're responsible for your obligations. If you obey him, you will be guided. The sole duty of the messenger is to deliver the message. So the message obviously was delivered
Subhanallah.
in its complete, entirety, that, we were clearly instructed by the messenger that, whatever's in the Quran, you accept it. If anything's outside the Quran, we don't care for it. It may or may not be true. We don't accept it. This is our principle. It's very simple. And yet this becomes a source of doubt. And then on top of that, they want to throw the blame and the card of division at you, because while they themselves have created the innovation, brought it in the religion, and divided from the religion, they want to call you the dividers. Like, mashallah, one of our brothers was talking about. Yes. So Brother Jafar is asking, can you play the last video? Maybe I'll share a link. I have like a shorter version of that on YouTube. Maybe I'll share it with you, John, and maybe you could play it just like you played the other one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, brothers, that that's not the only video. He says it in audios and in other videos as well.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't only say it once. Yeah.
No.
He made it very clear, subhanAllah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one. I'm sharing it here in the chat if someone can play it. Maybe Brother John, you could play it.
Okay, 1 second. Got it, brother. Okay.
Yeah, I think I'll play in your screen from window, right? Yeah.
Yeah, let me see if I can share.
No, it was shared. We could see it.
Okay.
Yeah. From OBS, we could see it. But I'm not sure about the audio. If we can hear the audio. Yeah, I can't play the audio.
Oh, there's no audio?
Yeah. Maybe I'll just play it from my phone.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder why there wouldn't be any audio though.
Yeah, because it tries to do noise canceling, so it mutes any loop back,
Oh, I see.
Mm.
What if I turn the volume down, maybe?
No, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, maybe you could play it from your phone.
Mm-hmm.
If you play it and then we start at the same time, it could sync, maybe?
Maybe, maybe not.
Maybe not, yeah. Yeah, like Brother Raphael said, I mean, there's, so many sermons and audios where it's literally spelled out for these people. Just like the Surah 2, the heifer, and Messenger even talks about this example in relation to him and the people around him. It's people going complicated for themselves and, just expose their doubt and disbelief.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm gonna play. Let me know if you guys can hear the. You hear it?
Yeah, we can hear it.
you spoke, and you said lots of things that are not in the Quran. Our principle here is if it is not in the Quran, we do not follow it, we do not believe it. It is not in the Quran. You have to get ready for all those things.
Hey, John, I think if you want to play it, that would be nice too. Yeah, I guess we can try your suggestion. 1, 2, on a count of 3, okay?
Okay.
1, 2, 3, go.
Susan, if you're not following the Quran, the whole Quran, nothing but the Quran. See, if you're not, Susan, last year you spoke and you said lots of things that are not in the Quran. Our principle here is if it is not in the Quran, we do not follow it, do not believe it. It is not in the Quran. You have to get ready for all those things. You come across the people who will try to divert Satan. You are the number one target of Satan. And this is an accordance to God's law. People will try to divert you and will use all kinds of tricks. And Satan will always work on you. He's not interested in those people out there, either Muslims or disbelievers. And you follow God alone, follow the word of God alone. The principle is very easy. If it is not in the Quran, we have no consideration. In this conference, you're going to hear lots of you, personal views of many people. Anybody can say anything they want. But your criteria is the Quran. It's not in the Quran, don't believe. No matter who is talking. Very simple principle. But this one we follow. Even in this conference, Satan has to be represented, especially in this conference. Satan has to be represented, and you're going to hear some views, and that are contrary to the Quran. And if you believe them, you deserve to believe. There may be two or three people who will be influenced. Because the purpose of these people who are bringing views other than the Quranic views is to at least put doubt in your heart. And if you, as long as you have doubt in your heart, you're in the lowest rank of submission. Remember the verse in Surah 49, verse 11. Says God says, do not say believer, say you are Muslim. Until All time is God. So their job is to put even a little bit of doubt in your heart. When this happens, you know that God is testing you, and that unfortunately, if the devil comes in my house and my effort comes, I still have some balance. So I'm still in the lowest rank. I'm still on my way. It's not hopeless yet. But you must be aware of this principle. This is our principle. If it is not in the Quran, I don't believe. It may or may not be correct. But if it is not in the Quran, I don't follow it.
MashaAllah. That was perfectly timed, subhanAllah.
Yeah, subhanAllah.
Hello, everybody. As I am sure
Yeah, like very simple. You know. Really well put and beautifully put. MashaAllah, great video.
Thank you. Alhamdulillah. All right, so is there any other comments or questions from anyone? All right, so I guess if there are no other comments or questions, God willing, we can conclude our study. Thank you, Brother John, for leading the study, and thank you, everyone, for joining. Our next Quran study in English will be on Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. God bless you all. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
God bless
Bless you
everybody.
all.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.